Hi everybody. I'm really excited to share this video with you today because I think we need this all the time, but even especially now. We need to talk about managing our stress, more specifically how to cope with stress. So this is a topic that I will continue to revisit in future videos. For today, I have one specific thing I want to share with you, which is a new way to think about stress management. There's a lot of stuff out there, and I think there's an old way and there's a new way and a better way to think about stress management. So if you are experiencing any amount of stress these days, this video is for you. So if this is your first time seeing these videos, my name is Danielle Dinkelman. I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach, and I'm a plant-based nutrition educator. So I do these videos every single week inside my YouTube channel and my free private Facebook group called Healthy Living with Danielle Dinkelman. So if you aren't a member over there yet or a subscriber, I would love for you to come and join us there. And let's dive in. So when I was going through my health and wellness coaching certifications, which I have 3 of them now, early on, I took a very specific class about stress management that blew my mind, and I loved the concept that was taught there because it gave me a whole new framework to understand stress management through. So I'm excited to share a very specific imagery with you on that today and give you some ways that you can start coaching yourself a little bit on stress management. So like I said in the beginning, there's an old way to think about stress management, and that old way is to think about stress management as managing the stressors, like trying to protect yourself from stressful events. And let's be honest, that's just sometimes not possible. So especially when that's not possible, we need to look at the other side of the equation, which is how are we handling the stress, but also what's our capacity? How much can we handle? And I want to give you an analogy to think about this through. We call it the pond analogy. And I did not come up with this. This is one of my instructors in my coaching program. So if you think about a pond, big or small, it's full of water, right? And it maybe has some rocks in there. And think of the pond as your capacity to handle stressful events in life, okay? And let's say, you get laid off from your job. That is like somebody just took a huge boulder and just threw it into your pond. And what happens? That is going to displace that water. You have used some of your resource to handle stress, because that is a huge stressor. So sometimes our stressors are huge, like big boulders. Sometimes they're small and they're constant, like someone throwing sand or pebbles into your pond. Maybe that's handling the stressful day-to-day stuff with raising kids. Okay, so there's different types of stressors, different frequency, but it wears on us, right? And we do have a finite capacity for these things. So think of the rocks or the boulders or the sand as the stressful things in your life, and think about the water as your capacity to handle those stressors. So with this imagery, I just want you to think about yourself and your life, and I want you to ask yourself a couple questions, and I would even love it if you pulled out a piece of paper or a journal and wrote this down. The question I have for you is, number 1, what are your stressors? And how big or small are they? And how frequently do they show up? And you can talk about that generally. You can also talk about it right now. Like maybe talk about today or talk about this week, okay? Whatever resonates with you. So take some time, identify your stressors and quantify it a little bit. Are they big or small, frequent or infrequent? Once you have that written down, I want you to go to the other side of your paper and think about the water. Think about your capacity, and maybe you can give yourself a level of high, medium, or low on what you feel like your capacity is right now. Are you running on empty? Or do you feel really full and fine? Or are you somewhere in between? Okay. This is a really helpful exercise to just get in tune and in touch with where you're at right now. This is your baseline. Okay, so the next step, if we were having a coaching conversation right now, I would ask you, where do you want to be? Are you where you want to be right now with your capacity for stress? And are there any of those stressors, the boulders, the sand, the pebbles, are there any of those that you could have some say over? Is there a way to protect yourself from those being an issue? That's something to explore. But one of the biggest things I want to talk about of what we can control with stress management and with coping with stress is how much and how often we are filling our pond. Okay? So this, to me, is the definition of self-care. It's filling our pond. It's increasing our capacity to handle life. Okay? So this is another great journal prompt, or this would be something that we would be talking about in a coaching conversation. What fills your pond? Okay? Let me be more specific. What recharges you? I've got 3 more for you. What energizes you? What relaxes you? And what brings you joy? And it's important as you make that list, come up with some things that you could do on a daily basis that are simple, easy, low barrier. There's no reason why you couldn't just go and do that thing on a regular basis, daily or weekly. I find when I have this conversation with clients, their first thought is, well, I love going on vacations. And that's great, but that's really not a useful self-care tool because you can't do it regularly. So try to identify some things that you can, that you do have ready access to. All right. So these are really important things. I really want you to take some time with this. And, if you want to shoot me an email, I would love to hear your responses because I always love hearing how everybody is a little different. The things that bring me joy, that recharge me, that energize me are going to be different than what those are for you. Same for what calms us and relaxes us. Now, isn't that interesting? A lot of people think that calming down from stress or handling stress is all about relaxing and calming yourself. And that is a big part of it. And I'm actually going to talk about that in next week's video. But I really think that a form of self-care can be just refueling, like refilling yourself with what brings you joy, what energizes you, what recharges you. So think about both aspects there. Okay, so I want to just leave you with maybe a few things that could be possibilities. I know some people, especially women, especially mothers, are not really in the habit yet of putting themselves first, of thinking about this self-care as a form of stress management. And so sometimes we have a hard time coming up with a list. We have a hard time answering those questions because we're not used to even giving ourselves permission to even go down that road. So here's a few things that I'm wondering if they might resonate with you, if you might want to put these on your list, and only do it if it really does strike a chord. If it's not, if you're like, oh, that would not be helpful for me at all, I don't even like that sort of thing, then don't put it on your list, okay? All right, so having fun, laughing, connecting with people, conversations, whether that's face-to-face or picking up the phone, resting, just taking a nap, just laying down, not even sleeping, just being restful. Having alone time, okay? My clients that are introverts, we pay attention to that. We know that we need our alone time. I'm not an introvert, but I understand introverts. Exercise or movement, if you'd rather think of it that way. Getting outside, being in the sunshine and the fresh air. Okay, maybe that's getting the juices flowing a little bit for you. I really encourage you to find things that can refill that pond and increase your capacity to handle life. And I hope you'll come and find us on YouTube or on Facebook. Again, it's Healthy Living with Danielle Dinkelman, and I hope to hear from you. Take care.